My name is Abigail Collins, and this is the story of how the people who called me the biggest failure in the family eventually stood at my front door, asking for a second chance. If someone had told me years ago that I would become a millionaire, I would have laughed. Because back then, I couldn't even get a job. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, in what looked like a normal middle-class family. My father, Richard Collins, believed success was the only thing that mattered. My mother, Karen Collins, never argued with him. And my older brother, Brandon Collins, was the golden child of the family. He had a great job, a new car, and everyone praised him. Then there was me. I had just graduated with a business degree. I was excited to start my career and make my family proud. Every morning, I woke up before sunrise, dressed professionally, and spent hours applying for jobs across Arizona. I customized every URSM. I wrote personalized cover letters. I attended interview after interview. But every single time, the answer was the same. We're sorry. We've decided to move forward with another candidate. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into almost a year. My savings disappeared. My confidence slowly disappeared with them. At first, my parents told me to stay positive, but eventually, their encouragement turned into disappointment. One evening, while we were having dinner, my father looked directly at me and asked, "Did you finally get a job?" I quietly shook my head. Without saying another word, he pushed his plate away and sighed. "I don't understand you, Abigail." Before I could answer, Brandon laughed. I've never seen someone collect rejection emails like trophies. My mother didn't defend me. She simply stayed silent. That silence hurt even more than Brandon's words. Then my father looked me straight in the eyes and said the sentence I will never forget. "You're becoming the biggest failure this family has ever seen." The room became completely silent. I felt my heart break, not because strangers had rejected me, but because my own family no longer believed in me. That night, I sat alone in my bedroom, staring at my laptop filled with rejection emails. I asked myself the same question over and over again. Am I really a failure? Little did I know, the worst day of my life was only a few days away. 3 days later, my family invited everyone over for my father's birthday. Aunts, uncles, cousins, the house was full of laughter. I tried to stay in my room, but my mother called me downstairs. "Abigail, come say hello to everyone." I forced a smile and walked into the living room. At first, everything seemed normal. Then my aunt smiled and asked, "So, Abigail, where are you working now?" Before I could answer, my brother Brandon laughed. "Working? She doesn't have a job. She's been unemployed for almost a year." The room filled with awkward silence. A few relatives looked at me with sympathy. Others quietly shook their heads. Then my father took a sip of his coffee and said something that changed my life forever. "Honestly, we've spent thousands of dollars on her education, and she still can't even find a simple job." Everyone heard it. No one defended me. I felt tears building in my eyes, but I refused to cry in front of them. I quietly walked back to my room and closed the door. That night, for the first time in my life, I realized I couldn't stay there anymore. Not because I hated my family, but because every single day in that house reminded me that I wasn't enough. The next morning, I packed one suitcase, a few clothes, my laptop, my college diploma, and only $417 left in my bank account. When I carried my suitcase downstairs, my father looked at me. "So, you're finally giving up?" I looked him in the eyes. "No, I'm finally giving myself a chance." He didn't stop me. Neither did my mother. Brandon just smiled as if he had won. I walked out of that house with tears in my eyes, but also with something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. I bought a one-way bus ticket to Austin, Texas. I didn't know anyone there. I had no job, no apartment, no backup plan. Just one promise to myself: one day, I'll prove that my family was wrong. When the bus pulled into Austin early the next morning, reality hit me. My money wouldn't last long. If I failed here, I would have nowhere left to go. But deep inside, I made one decision. No matter how difficult life became, I would never let anyone call me a failure again. When I first arrived in Austin, Texas, I quickly realized that hope alone couldn't pay the bills. The motel room I rented was small, old, and barely clean. Every dollar mattered. For the first 2 weeks, I applied for dozens of office jobs. The answer was always the same. We'll let you know. But they never did. My savings kept shrinking. One afternoon, I looked at my bank account. Only $63 remained. I sat on a park bench staring at my phone. For a moment, I thought about calling my parents. Maybe they would let me come home. Maybe they would give me one more chance. Then I remembered my father's words. "You're the biggest failure this family has ever seen." I put my phone back in my pocket. No, I whispered to myself, I'm not going back. The very next day, I accepted the only job I could find. It wasn't glamorous. I worked long shifts cleaning offices after everyone else had gone home. At night, I mopped floors, emptied trash cans, and cleaned conference rooms. Some people didn't even look at me. Others treated me as if I didn't exist. But every paycheck meant one more week I could survive. During the day, I refused to give up on my dream. I spent hours in the public library learning new skills online. Business, marketing, digital advertising, everything I could learn for free. I filled notebook after notebook with ideas. Most of them failed. Some didn't even make sense. But I kept learning. Months passed. One evening, while cleaning a small marketing company, I noticed a whiteboard covered with campaign ideas. Without thinking, I wrote a few suggestions on a sticky note and left it on the manager's desk. The next night, the manager stopped me before I started cleaning. "Did you write this?" My heart started racing. Yes, he smiled. "These are actually good ideas." That 5-minute conversation changed everything. Instead of laughing at me, someone finally saw my potential. A week later, he offered me a small freelance marketing project. The pay wasn't much, but it was the first time someone believed in my abilities. I worked every night until sunrise. I gave that project everything I had. When it ended, the client referred me to another business, then another, and another. Slowly, the woman everyone had called a failure was finally beginning to build something of her own. But I had no idea the biggest opportunity of my life was still waiting around the corner. Within 2 years, I had saved enough money to start my own digital marketing agency in Austin. I didn't have a fancy office, just a small room, an old laptop, and one client who believed in me. I worked 7 days a week, sometimes 16 hours a day. While everyone else was sleeping, I was building the future my family said I would never have. Slowly, my client list grew. Small businesses became medium-sized businesses. Medium-sized businesses became national brands. 5 years after leaving home, my company employed more than 50 people. That same year, I became a millionaire. The girl my family called a failure had built the life they said was impossible. One Saturday morning, I was sitting in my office when my assistant walked in. "Ms. Collins, there's a family here asking to see you." I looked through the glass window and froze. It was my father, my mother, and my brother Brandon. For the first time in years, I saw fear in their eyes. I invited them into my office. No one spoke for several seconds. Finally, my father looked down and quietly said, "I was wrong. I should have believed in you." My mother wiped tears from her face. "I'm sorry we didn't stand by you when you needed us." Even Brandon, the brother who used to laugh at me, couldn't look me in the eyes. Our business failed, he admitted. We've lost almost everything. We need help. For a moment, I remembered every rejection, every insult, every tear I cried alone. I could have taken revenge. I could have reminded them of every painful word they had ever said. Instead, I took a deep breath. Then I smiled. I'll help you. But not because you believed in me. I'll help you because I refused to become the person you expected me to be. My father broke down in tears. That day, money wasn't my greatest success. Forgiveness was. Because success isn't proving people wrong. It's proving to yourself that you were never the failure they said you were. If you're watching this today and people keep telling you that you'll never succeed, don't let their opinions become your future. Keep learning. Keep fighting. Keep believing in yourself. One day, the same people who doubted you may be the ones amazed by what you've achieved. And when that day comes, let your success speak louder than your anger.